When I started Oathbringer, all I wanted to read was a Kaladin chapter. Kaladin's my favorite character. I wanted Kaladin chapters so bad. And then you finally get a Kaladin chapter, and it's like 1 or 2 pages, and then it's right back into Dalinar, my least favorite character. Oh my god. Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive, The Way of Kings, Book 1. A little bit of backstory. I got back into reading this year, back in January. It's June now, so 6 months ago. Haven't read for years before this, probably back in 2010. So I'm reading again, getting into books, getting into the process. And one of the fantasy books that was constantly recommended, if you like fantasy, if you like world building, I kept seeing two things, Brandon Sanderson and the Stormlight Archive. So I picked up it was the cheaper 3-book set. The first 3 books, you get The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, and Oathbringer. And I'm currently on Oathbringer, but I still think I can give a first impressions, even though I'm 3 books in, or 2.5 books in. I read with my little book light on. Y'all don't judge me. I do just want to talk about the book and my first impressions of the series as a whole, because I also went ahead and bought, what is this, Rhythm of War, because I'm hooked. I'm hooked. Brandon Sanderson's stories are unconventional. I think it's his power system. So another disclaimer, I listened to like the first half of the Mistborn series. That's my car audiobook right now. Or the first book in the Mistborn series. I'm like halfway through it. But even in that book, Brandon Sanderson has really unique power systems. So it seems he likes the idea that money is power. Now this is just what I see. This is what I see when I look at his works. But it's like money is power, literally, right? Because in Mistborn they have allomancy and they use coins as weapons, or the ingots. And then in the Stormlight Archive, they have the crystals, the gems that store power from the storms, and then they use that as currency. And when they go dull over time, they'll put them out in the storm and recharge them. So Brandon Sanderson, to me, likes to have currency. Like, the money is power. That's what I think about him. Also, setting his jaw. Everybody in the Stormlight Archive sets their jaw, whatever that means. I just imagine Dalinar and Kaladin setting their jaws. But it's been an interesting read. I do like the different power systems. The fact that the power is finite is pretty cool too. Also, the world building. It took me a little bit to understand why so many people praised Brandon Sanderson's world building in the Stormlight Archive. I don't think you really see him flex it until book 3. I think that's where everything that he kind of placed in book 1 and 2 all come together, or at the end of book 2, book 3. I won't spoil that in case anybody hasn't read it yet, because this is a first impressions and not a review video. I think one of the hardest things to do as a person is to place an image in somebody's mind with your words. And even harder is to get them to make the image move the way you want it to. It's like that old analogy they have, like, think of an apple, right? And everybody's going to think of an apple a different way. Good world building will shape the apple similarly in other people's minds. It's been a pretty good series so far. Kaladin's story I find very interesting. His father was raising him to be a doctor, but he decided to go off to war after his brother got drafted, and some stuff happens in between where he ends up being branded a slave. Everything that happens in between with Kaladin is amazing. I love Kaladin's backstory. Front to back, I enjoyed Kaladin's flashbacks, except for like the early ones when he was a kid with his brother, you know, before he left. From the military onward, Kaladin's backstory is phenomenal. His entire story is phenomenal. He might be one of my favorite characters in fiction. Kaladin Stormblessed. I like how he's presented. My picture of him in my head, he's like a badass. I enjoy the character of Kaladin. Now the opposite is Dalinar. Dalinar he was the king's brother, but I think it's not really a spoiler. The king was killed, and then the king's son took over the throne, and you know he's kind of mentoring, looking out for his nephew. He is a very kingly dude. Like, he should be the king, but he's letting his nephew run things because that's his brother's son, you know, that's the rightful heir. But Dalinar's story is kind of, I don't know. He's as generic as it comes to me. He's just that guy, the broody, I'm gonna kill everybody, but now I'm gonna become a good guy type of guy, and I don't know if I can get behind it. And then we have Shallan, who I think is a very interesting character. She is hit or miss for me in the first book. I like some of her chapters, and some of her chapters were just the most boring thing I ever had to read. I just was not interested in her story at all. For me, her story really kicks off in book number 2, Words of Radiance. If you guys have read that's probably my favorite book in the series so far. I haven't even finished Oathbringer yet, but there's no way anything in Oathbringer is going to be as good as Words of Radiance, because Oathbringer is mainly about Dalinar. And I'm not a Dalinar guy. I'm sorry. She ends up becoming the scholar of Dalinar's niece. And I don't know. She's artistic. She likes to draw. I don't know, man. She wanted to become a student of this particular teacher so she could steal her powers, essentially, and bring her power back to her family back at home. I don't know. I don't know, man. I know Brandon Sanderson likes the heist thing, but she's not for me. So those are the 3 main characters. You spend most of your time in the book with them. Brandon Sanderson also has these weird, like, the intermissions, where it talks about some of the side characters that you see throughout the story, things that are doing, some background world building. Intermissions are also hit and miss. Some are good. Some are whatever. Why am I even reading this? Brandon Sanderson's pacing is also interesting. If one of my friends said, hey, I want to read, what book would you recommend me? I would not recommend the Stormlight Archive. I feel like The Way of Kings, it's slow burn. It's a really good book, but the book doesn't come online until like the end. You know what I mean? Until you're like 2/3 of the way through. Then the book's fully online and you're like, whoa, we're getting good. I think that's a lot of investment to ask for somebody who's just getting into reading, or who doesn't read much. You know, they're like, hey, what can I do to start reading? I wouldn't give them the Stormlight Archive. I will say the Stormlight Archive is phenomenal, and book 2 is probably one of my favorite books. Maybe I'll make videos about each book individually and talk about part 2. I don't want to spoil anything. But the end, I'd say the last, again, Brandon Sanderson's storytelling pattern, the last third of the story is just, it's just amazing. He just stacks everything up, and then that last third, you just get complete payoff, and you're ready for the next book. So if you do read, and you're currently reading, and you're used to a slow burn book, I'll recommend Stormlight Archive all day. It's fantastic. It's a great series. I believe the hype of the fantasy series. I've seen people talking about the most recent book. Is it book 5? I think it's book 5. People seem pretty mixed on it from what I'm seeing on reviews, but I'm going to read it anyways. But I'm like, honestly, I'm like a month away from that, maybe 2 months. I got to finish Oathbringer and Rhythm of War. So I got a little bit to get through, but first impressions with Brandon Sanderson's The Stormlight Archive. Really good book series. Slow burns all the way up to even Oathbringer. Right now, where I'm at in Oathbringer, it's a very slow burn. It hasn't hit that point yet where, you know, everything just starts clicking. It's also Dalinar, man. Oh my God. And Shallan. When I started, this is another detour. I'm sorry, I can do this at the end of the video. When I started Oathbringer, all I wanted to read was a Kaladin chapter. Kaladin's my favorite character. I wanted Kaladin chapters so bad. And then you finally get a Kaladin chapter, and it's like 1 or 2 pages, and then it's right back into Dalinar, my least favorite character. Oh my God. Oathbringer is the hardest book to get through, for sure. But I'm anticipating, you know, Sanderson's last third of the book just being crazy, so I'm still reading it, and you still get some good stuff in there. He still drops some good tidbits. I'm invested in the story. I'm invested in the world. I'm excited to read and finish and see what's next. That's going to do it for this first impressions of the Stormlight Archive. So I made this channel to try to encourage others to start reading, and just to talk about what I'm reading with others. I'm also going to be doing like a monthly book that I read and talk about on the channel to hopefully talk about with other people. And if that's something you think you'd be interested in, do like the video. I know I'm kind of ranty, so dislike it if you dislike my ranting, or if you clicked off, whatever. And let me know if you what you think of Sanderson in the comments below. And that's it for this one. Later.